Yo, what is good, AFC East Roundtable? We are back live yet again with my man TD. Dan Mitchell will be joining in just a little bit. He got stuck in traffic, and Master at Work will not be joining us, but it's okay because we got Travis, who is working with Mojo, a college football expert, and we're really excited to get Travis's perspective because the NFL draft is right around the corner next week, baby. Next week. So, Travis, welcome to the show, my man. You want to introduce yourself and what you got cooking for us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun. Just joined Dan, I guess it was just last week on the Bills show, talking some draft with that. Glad to be just at the round table talking more of the AFC East. Been talking with a bunch of team-specific people, so it's been fun just kind of getting a different feel from where all these teams all over the league are and like where the content creators are leaning in terms of what they want for their team. And it's going to be funny because like there's so much overlap. There's favorites. Everyone wants to be on their team, it seems. So it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait. And Mojo, it being the first NFL draft that we launched last fall with our the sports stock market. But this will be the first draft where we are live and the prices are moving and going crazy with every single draft pick and live trades, and it's going to be wild. So just going to be a bunch of fun and try to hope, don't break anything. That's that's a good place to start. But it just can basically, if your listeners aren't super familiar with it, you can actually invest in players like their stocks. And so it's just been so much fun to see like all the hype surrounding certain situations, whether it be Brock Purdy or Aaron Rodgers to or not to your Jets, with all that. It's just been a blast to oversee the market and work the college side, but really work on some of the NFL and NBA too. So pumped to talk some NFL draft with you guys here, though.
Well, Travis, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry to hear about you having to talk Buffalo Bills last week, man. I know that was probably torture. But I hope you gave them some good advice that they need to draft a quarterback because their quarterback is trash, Josh Allen. He's a pure bum.
Welcome to the roundtable, Travis, and meet TD Fins Talk. You're in for a treat tonight. But no, in all seriousness, Travis and chat, we are very fortunate to have Travis on here because he can give us an unbiased perspective of what he thinks our respective teams should be doing in the NFL draft and their overall state of what's going on with the Jets and the Dolphins and the Bills and the Patriots. Because obviously, we lean and TD likes to throw shade at the Jets. I like to throw shade at the Dolphins, vice versa. That's part of the banter of the AFC's roundtable. But now we wanted to bring on someone who is not a fan of either of four teams. It can give us his perspective of each franchise and where they should be going in the NFL draft. So we're really happy to have Travis on the show tonight. So folks, please do your boy a favor and hit that thumbs up button if you did not already. The AFC East Roundtable is live yet again. We got so much fun things planned for the rest of the off season leading up to the NFL draft as well, of course. So hit those buttons, subscribe if you're new, and let's get further into it. So TD, let's start off with you, man. Your Miami Dolphins, what are they doing in the first round?
See, Richie, you got jokes. Well, like I said, today we got some great news from our general manager. I know it's a running joke. What are the Dolphins doing in the first round? Because I believe this is the first time in NFL history where there will only be 31 picks in the first round because the Dolphins lost their first round pick. But there is a great chance that the Miami Dolphins could get back into the first round because we found out from our general manager today that there were several late first round teams that have called the Miami Dolphins about a potential trade down just in case their guy isn't on the board when they get there. And our general manager was actually excited about it. He said that he's exploring all options, and that's something that he is definitely open to, but he'll make the best decision if those opportunities present themselves. So I have to be honest with you. I haven't done any mocks. I haven't done anything related to the first round of the Miami Dolphins. But from this point going forward, I have to consider maybe the 28th pick or something like that. I have to consider who and what should or would the Dolphins pick up between 26 and 31. So that's where I have no idea because I haven't even done research thinking that we wouldn't have any opportunity. But we know our team needs. We obviously need a right tackle, even though Chris Greer say he's committing to Austin Jackson. who's in year 4 now, and it just hasn't gone great. We need a left guard. It's just been a disaster. We can't find anyone there. We need a linebacker to continue to build that core. And one of the biggest things that we need is a tight end, losing Mike Gesicki as well. Now, there's a lot of other there's a lot of other positions we need because these veterans won't be here forever if we want to prepare for the future. But those are the needs we have right now in a win now situation, which we are in. And I will say this, those are the 4 positions I believe that they will be attacking in the draft. And if we get into the first round, priority would possibly be tight end or even a left guard. I don't know, Travis, because I know that this is something new to even you, but any thoughts on the Dolphins if they were to get into a later first round situation?
Yeah, they're in a really good spot really already with pick 51 if you need any of those spots, I think, because it's very likely that one of the top 5 or 6 tight ends that a lot of people are mocking pretty highly, pretty consistently, could fall to you guys there. And so if you didn't feel the need to move up and didn't get a good price to move up, one of the tight ends might fall to you guys. And there's a couple of interior offensive linemen that can play multiple positions, not just guard or center or right guard. There's Cody Mock, who actually played at North Dakota State. And you'll see him because I don't know if he's got his teeth fixed yet, but he's the guy with like the double gap in the middle. I don't know if you've seen his picture. And then you got John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota, who I actually really like. And he's somebody
future Jet.
Honestly, he's going to be somebody where teams are dancing around trying to figure out, okay, where does he go? Because is he the most outlandishly toolsy guy that is the lock for first round grade? Absolutely not. But he could go anywhere between like pick 25 and like pick 50. And so people have been dancing around. His mock draft data on him has been all over the place. But he's rising. So if you guys want the best option in terms of that interior offensive line role that can play multiple spots for you, that is probably going to be John Michael Schmitz. But timing that trade might be the tricky part for the Dolphins. But if you wait, you might get a Luke Musgrave or a Sam Laporta. Luke Musgrave, of course, out of Oregon State. Sam Laporta out of Iowa. He's maybe the best pure pass catching tight end. But if you want one of the more elite, well-rounded options in Michael Mayer, or even the true receiving threat that he really proved himself this past year in Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. If one of those guys starts to drop, into the late first round, that might be their guy. Like one of those might be their guy for the Dolphins. Like I can imagine, if Dalton Kincaid is sitting there at 27 and they see the Bengals up next at 28, like, oh crap, we need to get ahead of them and get our guy. There's a decent deal. They can get up into that spot. That might be where I could see them trading up to just to get ahead of the tight end curve. Or if somebody like an Osiris Torrance out of Florida begins to drop as well. His average draft position right now through, I do a billion mocks for Mojo purposes and track everything. His average draft position right now is pick 28. So like that would be prime
Sweet
position
spot
to try to, exactly. And it's not that the overall cap hit and the money distribution of a contract in that range is not vastly different from being a pick 51 either. So realistically, they could trade up into that spot. And Osiris Torrance, he was really he was just a fantastic mauler that I love to watch play. So that would be fun to watch him go to your Dolphins. So and just a couple options there. If you wanted to get right tackle, another player that's kind of hard to time on where he's going to go because the range of where he's getting drafted is all over the place. But Dwan Jones out of Ohio State, he's just a mammoth of a human being. So that's somebody who could plug and play as a right tackle or a swing tackle role from day one. And he was just killing it at the Senior Bowl. I loved his tenacity on day one. So those are some options that I would be looking at if I was a Dolphins fan for sure, just to keep those names in the back of your pocket. So
quick follow-up question on that, if you don't mind. We know there's going to be a lot of moving pieces if we were to move up. And a lot of the guys that would be in that sweet spot, number 28, they would be day one starters. Now, if we aren't able to move up and we're stuck with the mid second round, late second round pick, do you see a day one starter though with some of those guys?
Honestly, I do, because I think that this draft is particularly deep at a few positions that you described. for a while it was showing that the mock draft data was showing we might have 5 top 50 tight ends, but a few of those options are starting to drop a little bit down consensus boards. And I think that given the experience of a lot of these guys, with the exception of Luke Musgrave, because his body of work has been slightly derailed due to injury, especially this past year. Only played a couple, like really a game and a half. But Sam Laporta, back-to-back seasons of 600 plus receiving yards for an offense that doesn't even really pass the ball. I mean, I don't know if you watch college football very much, but they averaged like 17 points a game last year. Couldn't do anything, yet Laporta was the one shining star for them 2 years in a row. And I think plugs some plays in that perfect receiving type tight end role from day one. Now, he's not, his upside might not be that of Dalton Kincaid, but in terms of being a pure value add as a receiver, he's one of my favorite players in the draft. So I think tight end might be the safest bet to sit where you are and get a day one impact player.
Nice.
All right. So, folks, that concludes the Dolphins talk for the rest of the show. We are over the Miami Dolphins talk. Welcome, Dan. We missed
man?
You. Welcome to the party.
Man? Sorry about that. I was
Thanks, Travis.
stuck in traffic, and I was trying to rush back because I've been baking some very thick chicken. Like, I'm talking like 4 C's. I pulled it out like 6 times. It's still red. So that's been my situation, but super excited to join you fellas. Very excited to have Travis on once again. I know that we have a lot of things to unpack. Thank God I missed the Dolphins portion, so we can just talk about the 2 real contenders in this division for the remainder of this episode. I love it.
Patriots and the Jets.
Oh, yeah, baby. So,
God, man.
No, in all seriousness, though, I think this is a good time to talk about the Patriots because we definitely want to discuss all 4 teams, even though Tyson's not here tonight with us. So I want to ask Travis, at the 14th pick, where do you see the Patriots going? Do you think that, there's a specific need that is a specific prospect that you think Bill Belichick has to go for? Or do you think it's obvious? Do you think it's up in the air? So where have you seen the mocks with the Patriots in round 1 so far?
I've seen a lot of different directions with them. I've seen maybe it's just the timing of a few of their visits. I've seen them taking a wide receiver. I've seen them take cornerback. I've seen them take safety. I've seen them take offensive tackle. Like, there's a few different directions that they could go based on where they're sitting, and they're in a really good spot. I don't feel like based on their needs they have to feel like pressure, like, hey, they got to move up. And I'm not one that's just tossing Mac Jones completely out at this point. I know a lot of the fans and people, and I'm sure on other AFC East teams are plenty fine doing that, but I'm not quite there with him either, so that they don't have to be involved in trading up and going crazy for quarterbacks obviously this year. So that's nice. But I would say because of where they sit, they could get their pick of a couple of different corners depending on how the draft board actually falls. And yes, they bring back a few other options, but I believe I think it's Jalen Mills that's actually moving back to safety. I believe that's who it was. And so they want a little bit, more corner depth and a young starter to really build around. You could go with a Joey Porter Jr. You could go with, one of whichever of the cornerback options that typically rank ahead of him, that being Christian Gonzalez of Oregon or Devin Witherspoon of Illinois. If one of them drops to 14, I feel like that's automatically the best player on the board there. So there are a few different options, or if they actually like Deonte Banks more, they could go that direction. Banks has had visits with just about every franchise in the league at this point, so he's immensely desirable despite having his mock draft data land around pick 20 on average. But if they like him, they could go that direction. There's really several corners that they could land, or if they just want an impact edge rusher and keep building that out, they could go in that direction because there's 3 guys that could make it hypothetically to them, and Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa, Nolan Smith out of Georgia, then Mr. Toolsy himself, and then Miles Murphy, of course, out of Clemson. He's been going in that range as well. I think coming into the process, I was highest on Miles Murphy of these 3, but the tools of Nolan Smith and the otherworldly athleticism that he displayed at the combine has me intrigued anywhere, once we get to like pick 8, honestly. And I could even see the Falcons going that direction. But if he drops to 14, just based on tools, that might be the play.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, we got some Patriots fans in the chat saying, you are correct, Travis. Another one says Patriots should take a left tackle. I think JSN goes to Tennessee. So you are a Tennessee fan. So do you think JSN to Tennessee is likely, or what do you think? Where do you see your Titans going at 11?
My Titans just love to choose offensive linemen and running backs and whatever else. Like even when you got Derrick Henry, they used the day 2 pick on a running back last year. So they just like to keep it boring as possible. So JSN would be too sexy. That'll be a lot of fun. They also hate speed, so can't add anything that runs above 10 miles an hour. So I would say they're probably going to stick to it and just look to the future and try to protect whoever is the quarterback of the future, because that's probably not going to be Tannehill. Definitely not going to be Malik Willis. And I don't see them, going all in on any of these quarterbacks this year. They're not in a great spot there. So I think they'll keep it boring and go like Paris Johnson Jr., Ohio State offensive tackle, or Pete Skoronski or Broderick Jones. Rand Carthon, the new GM, actually, I think stylistically he might go with Broderick Jones, but that's probably where they lean.
That sounds very on brand for the Patriots, for sure. Sounds very on brand. So boring.
Well, he's talking about the Titans there.
I'm talking about my Titans here, but the Patriots always have.
Hey man, the boring way is a smart way though. The boring way is a smart way at times, and that transitions right into the Jets, because we talked about it earlier before. We went live backstage, Travis, about what the Jets are going to do at 13. So the Jets have an interesting discussion. I think every single mock has them going the quote boring route by getting that best offensive tackle available, whether it's Paris Johnson, whether it's Jones, whether it's, even Darnell Wright. I see some people going out there and linking him to the Jets. So the way I look at it is the offensive tackle position seems like Joe Douglas is going to do that. He prioritizes the offensive line. His first draft pick was Mekhi Becton as the Jets GM. We all know that Mekhi had a phenomenal rookie season, and his issue has not been his ability on the field. It's just the fact that he can't stay healthy. He's been 2 years removed from playing football. Right now, he lost 50 pounds. He's in tremendous shape, and Jets fans are optimistic that he'll be out there and be our starting tackle. We got 38-year-old Dwayne Brown. We have year 2 Max Mitchell coming out there, but, you can never have too many tackles, and the Jets were absolutely destroyed with injuries last year at the tackle position. We had 5 on the IR at one point. So that's why Jets fans are like, we need to make sure when we get Aaron Rodgers, he is upright. But then there's the other side of Jets fans that are like, wait a second. We were interested in Odell Beckham Jr., and that fell through. And the Jets just traded away Elijah Moore. Why not go get his Garrett Wilson, the reigning Rookie of the Year's teammate in Ohio State, in JSN, right? So where do you think the Jets are most likely going to go? Do you think they're going to go the safe route with the offensive tackle spot, wide receiver? And I think there's even a possibility of them trading back from 13 and acquiring more assets as well.
That would be my play. That's probably what a lot of teams want to do, because if you are not sure that you have your guy, or if there are other players that are valuable at that same position, which it looks like that may be the case if they just barely miss out on a Jackson Smith and Jigba, and there's 3 other wide receivers that they actually want to add perhaps later in the first, that'd be a great spot to trade down, but it takes 2 to tango. So that's kind of rough to do. But if they want to, just get a wide receiver and they miss out on JSN because he goes pick 11, 12, whatever, right ahead of them, then there's several other options they could target later in round 1. But I think based on what they need and based on what you just described, like with all the attrition that they've endured at the offensive line position, I think just Paris Johnson Jr., Pete Skoronski, Broderick Jones, one of those 3 could fall. And I think there's a lot of buzz right now from real people that are in the know that Darnell Wright might go a lot higher than we think as well.
Yeah.
He's obviously the offensive scheme that they run in Tennessee. It's a little odd. Their offensive line splits are strange. Like even like the footwork is slightly different with the passing game, even in the running game. It's a different play. But he has all the tools in the world. And so there was a bit of a concern, I think, from early mock drafters and early experts that schematically there might even be a concern there. But I don't think teams care. They just want a big, massive human that does rare things. And he's been rising up the boards, and his average draft position right now is all the way up to 19. And so they wouldn't be a super reach, even if they wanted to get the 4th offensive lineman off the board if they miss on the first 3.
And the other position of needs with the Jets, and one of them's like a glaring hole, is the center. Connor McGovern was our center for the past 3 years. He's a free agent. We have not re-signed him yet. So the Jets are going into the draft definitely drafting a center, whether that's John Michael Schmitz, whether that's Luke Weipler. We have 2 second-round picks at 42 and 43. We also know that the Aaron Rodgers trade's looming, where if the Aaron Rodgers trade happens during the draft, we're most likely giving up one of those second-round picks. But the other position is defensive tackle. We have Quinnen Williams, first-team All-Pro. He's about to get paid. But next to him, we missed out on Sheldon Rankins. He walked. So there's a hole next to Quinnen Williams. And Robert Saleh, he loves his defensive linemen. He wants to have as many guys as possible. And I'm looking at the Jets with a need at defensive tackle and center. And then you can even say safety as well. So when it comes to the second round with the Jets, where do you think they can go? Who's your favorite centers in the draft? Is there a defensive tackle that you think the Jets can target even at 13 if they fall in love with one, or in the second round? So basically my question to you is, out of those positions, defensive tackle, safety, and center, which one of those 3 positions you think are most likely? Say hypothetically the Jets don't trade for Aaron Rodgers during the draft and it's after the draft and they keep pick 13, they pick 42 and 43.
Yeah, I picked 42 and 43. You have a few different options. Maybe you hope that Mozzie Smith from Michigan drops to that point. I think a lot of people are assuming that he's going to be an early 30s type play, maybe even back end of round 1. But if he drops into your lap, if it pick 42, that's probably automatically the go-to. I think some people really love Keanu Benton. The range of his draft outcomes are all over the place, to the back end of the first to like pick 120. So he's a polarizing player, but that's somebody that I would be on my radar in that range, or maybe a potential trade back out of that if that's actually the target player. So in defensive line, second round, there are a couple options. I think it feels like they'd probably be in round 1, unless somehow, and I don't expect this, it's Jalen Carter fell to you guys at 13. That would be the obvious play, but Kaji Kancey and Brian Brzee feel like a little bit more of a reach. Kaji Kancey, due to him being not the atypical size specimen at the position, having super short arms. Brzee, I've seen him all over the place. His potential has been fantastic. We just never saw the best of him at Clemson. He was a 5-star type pedigree player. He's a massive human being. So maybe they like him and want to reach for him, or maybe trade back and go with that. But there are several top 50-ish kind of options, but where they're sitting at 42 and 43, it feels like they're just going to miss some or have to reach for one in that spot. But safety, there's several options that I prefer a little bit later. But if they want to get reachy there, they could go with an Antonio Johnson out of Texas A&M, or I really like Sidney Brown out of Illinois. That defense was absolutely just lights out this past year. And I know some people really like Jordan Battle out of Alabama. He's kind of a do-it-all safety, but he's more like right now a round 3 consensus player. But what was the other position? Defensive line, safety, and
center.
And center, you have a few options because
that's like a big hole. Like they need a center.
Then I bet it's got to be whoever drops in terms of interior lineman projection. Like I mentioned, John Michael Schmitz or Cody Mock, or if they just want to go a prototypical proven center, they could go Joe Tippmann out of Wisconsin. That would be. So really, they have 3 options that might be in that range that look like at least one of those is going to be available at that pick 42, 43 range.
Interesting stuff, man. What are your thoughts of Luke Weipler or Steve Avila? Those 2 guys.
I'm not as high necessarily on those interior guys. In particular, I'm not I don't have a super strong take on Avila. I think I just felt like based on how this season went, I think people are looking at him a little bit too confidently. TCU was a fantastic season. Some of the capital projections is dissipating a little bit with a few of these guys, but it's not with Avila. So maybe people are actually projecting his traits to be a little bit more of a plus. I projected him more of like a late day 2, early day 3 guy until I started seeing all these mocks, with him in like round 2. So he's not necessarily one of my favorites.
And I could predict the Jets packaging both of those second round picks to move up to secure them, John Michael Schmitz, the leapfrog over a team that might be interested, because I don't think he's going to fall to them at 42.
Yeah, like right now, if you look at the large scale sample of, the most meaningful mocks that are proven to hold, in terms of like the actual experts with proven draft predictive efforts, he's around pick 37. So it's like just on the outside looking in there. But like I said, the range has been all over. So he might be a late first. So if they really, really like that guy, it would make sense to trade up.
Hey,
yeah,
Travis,
Douglas has proven that he will.
Real quick, Travis. So, like, in a hypothetical world, between now and the draft, Green Bay Packers or the Jets, they no longer are trade partners for Aaron Rodgers. Do you see the Jets having any path to a quarterback in this draft?
Well, the comments say that should be Mitchell Trubisky. So maybe that.
Travis, you don't need to answer that.
No, I'm just saying anything. Could they say, hey, with our first round pick, we're going to get a quarterback? Is there even a quarterback there for them?
No.
Well, historically, it's funny like that. The average draft position data, whatever, says like, hey, there's gonna be like 4 top 9 or 10 or whatever 11 first round picks in this
always
draft.
One that falls.
Yeah, and it seems that way, especially last year. But we've never seen 4 quarterbacks go in the top 9 picks, which is like what the draft data is trying to tell us is going to happen right now. Like I see Sony mocks where like it's 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 4 and then 7, like, and they're all gone. But I'm thinking somebody drops. So if somebody does drop, they're going to have a real decision to make if they really want to go after the traits of a Will Levis, who I think is probably the odds-on, in my opinion, guy that could fall out of those 3. But I don't think that they would even go in that direction.
If anything, they might
quarterback completely if the Aaron Rodgers move falls through.
That's not. Well,
so
you're thinking of you're thinking of a crazy hypothetical. That's not.
Bro, y'all not getting
the Jets are not drafting. We're in a win now. If anything, if Rodgers falls through, they're not pivoting to a rookie. They're going to pivot to another veteran somehow, some way. I don't think you get that. They're not going to throw a rookie out there.
And so I know that we're going through a rabbit hole that Richie does not want us to cover whatsoever because he wants Rodgers to be a part of the Jets organization literally yesterday. And so I will go on a limb, and I do think that he will be. But since we're on the quarterback conversation, this has been, I would say, not necessarily a popular debate, but Stetson Bennett, man. Listen, I know everyone hates on the guy, all right?
What about him, though?
National champion. Not that slow, surprisingly a hell of a lot faster than I thought, especially from what I saw and so on the combine as far as like all the highlights, etc. What are your thoughts on him? I'm sort of curious about Stetson Bennett.
The Bills should draft him over Josh Allen.
He had a really fun story.
Right?
I think a lot of people have seen it at this point. You know, he went from walk-on to transferring out to JUCO to coming back and being still like the quarterback 3 behind something called Dwan Mathis that transferred and now changed positions at Temple. But, you know, and he works his way up and wins the national championship. And it's a great story. But realistically, he's a day 3 at best type projection, in my opinion, just based on the tools. I think, you know, there's some concern just with some off-field stuff that we don't need to really get into. But I'm not – he's probably quarterback 13, 14 for me in this class.
13, 14?
13, 14?
Really? Wow. Wow, really?
Better than Josh Allen. Y'all better look at him then.
Oh man, he's already starting off. Listen, so Josh Allen's on the single life right now, man. He has no distractions. He's going straight in.
Is he?
Yeah. But,
newly single?
We also won't get into that. Yeah. We also won't get into that. Yeah, but regardless, I mean, Richie, I think that you guys would be great. Would be in a great position to get Stetson Bennett. Just take a chance.
Hold on, you mean to tell me we're gonna have a heartbroken Josh Allen this year?
No, I'm talking zero focus, man. She's broke, he's up, man. She's broke, he's up. All right, let's make it work.
Listen, man. We'll see. Stetson Bennett won't be a Jet, and no quarterback in the first round will be a Jet. If anything, maybe they might draft a quarterback later in like the 3rd or 4th, 5th round for developmental reasons, but I don't even see that happening either. But all right, let's transition to the Buffalo Bills. We talked enough about the Jets, Dolphins, and Pats. So Dan, the floor is yours. I know that you had Travis on your show last week, so any questions you have for him about your Buffalo Bills heading into the draft?
Several, as a matter of fact. So Travis, I actually took the liberty of doing a 3-round mock draft a bit earlier. I'm planning on editing the video and releasing it tomorrow. A couple of questions starting off. Brandon Beane was... so he was interviewed yesterday, and he's on the path, and he believes that there's not a lot of first-round graded players on the offensive side of the ball. Would you agree with that? Because a lot of Buffalo Bills fans, man, they're talking about receiver. They're talking about more playmakers for Josh Allen. And since we're at 27, and as much as I want us to trade up, as much as many Bills fans want us to trade up, Bean also mentioned that he was in Vegas, that he would put money down on us trading down before we do that. His claim of there not being a lot of true first-round graded offensive players in the first round, do you agree with that, or is he just blowing smoke up us?
No, I think so. I think that checks out. I think as few as 8 or 9 offensive players might be on some teams' boards this year. If you look at current mock trends, like 9 players that get first round draft capital, and all the mocks 95% or more of the time, there are 19 players. Which that makes sense, because like generally, if you talk to any GM or any scout or whatever, there's like anywhere from 15 to 20 players on a team's board that will actually have a first round true grade, and then there's a bunch of other people that were like, okay, we really think that they're going to be day one starters, but they're not necessarily like elite first round grade material. And so just within those 19 players, there's only 9. So yeah, I mean, that would be like 4 offensive linemen. You got your Bijan, you got your Jackson Smith and Jigba, you got some quarterbacks.
So I mean, Bijan is definitely interesting. He's been a name that's been floating around a lot in the Bills Mafia community. And it's, like I said, I am not anticipating us to trade up. I think if there was any trade partners at all, would be the Vikings at 23 or the Ravens at 22 from there. But in your mind, is there any world where you see Robinson falling to 27? Or do you think that there's no way in hell, and the only way that we're going to get him on this roster is, say, that we trade up into the draft?
A couple weeks ago, I was thinking that there was more of a chance that would be the case. But as more and more information starts to leak, it sounds like there are several teams that would take him before pick 27 for sure. I mean, like if you just go down the list, like the Cowboys are definitely going to take him because, I mean, that's what they do. So a pick before you guys. But even like, there's been buzz with Austin Eckler, perhaps leaving the Chargers. So maybe at 21. Baltimore, they love to run the ball. They're getting a new offensive coordinator that loves to pass more, but they haven't, they haven't had a hugely successful like feature back there besides Mr. Gus Edwards. But so maybe they go that direction. I mean, the Vikings with Dalvin Cook, they're not necessarily tied to him even to this year. Like he's still on the team, but not necessarily tied to him this year. And then you get ahead of that, and there's several different teams that you could argue could take him. I know somebody mentioned in the comments, don't you dare give us a running back at 14 to the Patriots, but even that's in play. Like, like that's not, I really like Ramondre Stevenson. I don't want them to do that. That's not the smart move, but there's so many teams that you can make an argument for ahead of them, all the way up to 8 with the Falcons. I know they liked Tyler Algier last year, but he's not Bijan. So,
he's definitely not Bijan Robinson.
So it's just,
at all.
I mean, there's way too many teams at this point that would lead me to believe he's going to make it to 27.
And so it's funny as well, because as I mentioned, I would say that if we were, and like with Brandon Bean was just blowing smoke, he was trying to cause a distraction. And for all we know, we do trade up. The 2 most likely partners would be either the Ravens or the Vikings, both back to back at 22, at 23. Your mindset, which team would you see would actually take the bait? Which team has less to lose?
Which ones again?
It's the Ravens or the Vikings. They're at 22 and 23, like around where most of the projections are saying that he's going to go.
Yeah, I think the Ravens probably feel like his floor to me. Like that, that's probably it. And if you're going to want to trade up there, it's probably not crazy expensive to do so from 27. So
no,
yeah, that would make sense. Like if you want to just go get the best offensive skill position player, agnostic of position at all, in the draft, it's Bijan. So I wouldn't knock anyone for doing that.
Dan, you want to read the super chat? From Bill's fan?
First off, William, definitely appreciate the support, man. We love you for that. With Bijan and D-Hop, we'll be a Bill here soon. And so I think we trade up like 3 spots to 24 and take Bijan. Then we trade for D-Hop. Season is set. Focus offensive line and defensive line in the draft and whatever else.
Y'all ain't getting no D-Hop. Stop.
I mean, listen, I did end up putting out like a pretty clickbaity like YouTube short today. But I mean, it was in good faith. I mean, with Von Miller saying, hey, man, listen, he told me he wants to be a Bill, but at the same time
Yeah.
said the same thing about OBJ. So I'm going to take that with a grain of salt.
He
I
meant
would
the
love
dollar
Odell
bill.
Beckham Jr. And so I would love Odell Beckham Jr. And actually my third pick in the mock draft is a receiver I'm very excited to ask Travis about as we sort of go through this line of questioning. But I mean, listen, I would not be upset with both of those offensive weapons for Josh
That
Allen
would be
going
fun.
into the new season. Oh my God.
I'm not sure what remaining capital you have after, perhaps having to trade up and then trading for D-Hop. I'm not sure what you have to get that O-line and D-line in the mid-rounds, but there are some players that I like for D-line later on, like Jacqueline Roy out of LSU, Zach Pickens out of South Carolina, names that I like in the mid spout. I think, that 91 range.
It's funny that you made that transition because when you and I were talking on my channel last week, I mean, my first round pick is Jack Campbell, first off, like out of Iowa. I mean, his grades for coverage and then also a run defense is absolutely through the roof. I mean, I think that he's like the number one linebacker that he's not going to be in Edmonds immediately, but I think he's the best fit from where we are. I'm very excited about that.
He's just a monster. So
I
like that, man. He's like legit 6'4", like 250, like old school middle linebacker, but he can cover. So it's like I don't even know what you do with that. He's got the top tier like coverage grades and back-to-back seasons, 125 plus tackles. Like what? Like that? You can't even build a linebacker like that in a lab, So
he is on my radar heavily. Really hoping. Well, like most projections are saying, like he's early second, but I would be completely fine with reaching for him at 27. I mean, that's a glaring hole within the Buffalo Bills roster that I would love. But my question here is because I did overhear earlier that you guys were talking about Steve Avila, the guard out of TCU. However, during my mock draft, my second pick, and I thought that this was a sleeper. I thought it was a bit of a reach, but I did like his ability in pass protection, not bad in the power run game now that we ended up getting Damian Harris. Named by Chandler Zavala, guard out of NC State. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's actually been one. So in terms of offensive like guard play, apparently I'm a little bit slow to the hype trains this year because he's actually been rising up a little bit in mocks, and Avila has been moving up as well. And both of them I had, end of day 2, early day 3 type grades. Zavala is still in that range at an NC State. Like I think he's a better value because I had similar grades on him as I did Avila out of TCU. But so that'd be fantastic especially if you can get him round 3, or if he does drop even later. That's great. I wouldn't really want to have him in round 2 necessarily. But he's somebody I would be targeting with their, I guess, pick 91. That would make sense for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, like, I mean, I thought it was intriguing too, because I mean, I feel like everyone, when they're looking from the guard perspective, they're saying, hey, like we want somebody that is really good in run blocking. Right. But I mean, you also need to understand that Dorsey is not the kind of guy that's going to completely change up his offensive scheme going into 2023. He's a pass first guy. Yeah. And what I loved about Zavala was the fact that he only gave up like 4 pressures, I think, and like I think all last season and 4 the year before with so many different offensive snaps. So love that about him.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll definitely see that. I feel like everyone's been salivating about receiver. I feel like everybody has been sort of talking about like Hopkins, like, hey, like would love to go on ahead and send over a 3rd and a 4th to Arizona, maybe a 2024 second for this guy just to join this team. But I'm not getting my hopes up. So I still feel that the Bills are missing something on the receiver side. So my 3rd pick, okay, somebody I got really excited about, but I'm hoping that you can talk me off a ledge. So like my expectations aren't that high for this. Sure. But I'm talking about a dude that is out of Wake Forest. His name was A.T. Let me see what it was.
A.T. Perry.
A.T. Perry. Talk to me about that absolute unit of a wide receiver.
It's funny. Like he actually measured in a little bit shorter than I thought he would because like his list height was like 6'5" for forever at Wake, and I think it was like 6'3" or something like that. But he's still
And so dudes lie about their height all the time, man.
I know. It's
my
like,
license says I'm 6'5".
They put a lift in
5'9".
they put a lift in their cleats. That's what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But now A.T. Perry was fun. And their run game was really fun. They had that long mesh. They hold it in the running back's belly for like what feels like 15 seconds before they actually pull it. And that sets up some fun reads downfield for the passing game when they throw off of that as well. And they really threw a ton when Hartman was there, and Hartman was the guy. Now he's at Notre Dame. But Perry, I actually thought it was going to be Donovan Green that broke out, and Banks actually was a thing this last year for them. But Perry, I think, projects well at the next level as a solid, trustworthy possession receiver who can get deep when you need him to. But he's not like an absolute burner in that regard. So he's a chain mover that I think they definitely need, because like, what do you want out of a wide receiver for your Bills? Like, you already have Diggs, who is Mr. Everything. Like, he just makes people look ridiculous. And then Gabe Davis, who I think does his best work working vertical. And so if you want just a down to down guy that moves the chains, that has a big body and can, catch some imperfect passes from Josh Allen at times. Then A.T. Perry right there.
Thank you. Imperfect passes. Somebody sees it.
Hey, listen, man. Like, I mean, I fell in love with what I've researched on his ability with contested catches. He does have, from what I've seen, drop issues, but they think it's more of like not paying attention and looking at the destination opposed to like watching the ball actually go into his hands. But very, very, very high on that guy. I mean, it's wild, man. I'm excited about the draft coming into it, and we'll just see what Brandon Beane does. But I will tell you what, I feel like I've never been right on what he does, like each and every single draft. You just can't read that GM. So for all I know, we're going to get another safety. And for all I know, in the first, and just go straight up defense. Who knows?
Hey, Brian Branch would be a really fun, versatile play. I mean, like, you guys have
Branch should be good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Anthony for the $5 super chat. Just tuned in. Why the F are there two Dans? So apparently, Travis, you and Dan
Travis, you and I look like cousins,
twins.
Apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, sweet.
Yeah, look at that. Related. Fun fact.
Hey, Travis.
Thank you, Anthony.
Could the Tennessee Titans trade Ryan Tannehill to the Jets?
Oh, all right. You know what? We're removing TD for he's in timeout.
He's done.
Timeout. For all these.
Please do, though. Please do. That would be fantastic.
I do want to ask you a serious question, Travis, because I think this would be a fun time to get your thoughts of all of our teams outside of the NFL draft coming up, but just for your expectations for the AFC East as a division heading into this season. What if you had to predict who's first, second, third, fourth, who's the wild card, who's making the playoffs, who's not making the playoffs? A lot of it has to do with, the NFL draft coming up to finish out the offseason. But what's your, from an unbiased perspective view on this division heading into this 2023 season?
Well, the Patriots had their 2 decades, man, but they're no longer king. They just haven't been ever since Brady left, and so I don't expect that to change. I would not be surprised if they were the bottom feeders, and there's nobody here to defend them, so that's perfect. But
easy to say.
Yeah, exactly. After that, what version of Rodgers are you getting when he comes to town? And is he going to be the best version of himself even last year in a new situation with new weapons, new everything? I'm not sure how that's going to go overall. So I have my questions about how that transition is just going to go. Unless, he keeps bringing back, Packers receivers like James Jones comes out of retirement or something, something weird like that happens. And then maybe push you guys over the top. But, so I think Jets probably third. And then really it comes down to, which Tua we get. Do we get healthy Tua? And do we get the efficient in the mid portion of the field Tua that we saw in the early portion of the season or the, mid to later portion? And so to me, because like Tua, I love him. I was pumped for the Dolphins when they got him because he was like a 99th percentile pass efficiency guy in college. I know he had great weapons at Alabama, but he was like next level. Like he's been special since legitimately like middle school. Like he's been like a 5-star track to be like a next level NFL. What do you mean? Like it's just like it wasn't perfect on the stretch, but they just didn't adjust scheme wise. It's just like I saw them run the same thing over and over again, and teams were like, "Hey,
thank you,
yeah,
thank you." See, this guy sees it. I tell my own Dolphin fans that, and they just think that I'm hating. We ran the same scheme over and over, the same plays over and over.
That had to be frustrating. Like so,
if
they add more wrinkles offense, and adjust.
A basic offense over and over and over. And but at the same token, this goes back to when Flores was here, what we found out, Tua isn't the quickest learner. He's kinesthetic. He basically needs repetition to basically lock stuff in. And I think McDaniel came in and gave him a simple approach, the most simple approach that you could possibly give him, and he kind of mastered it, but the rest of the league start mastering it too. And so I hope that they start to add on to it this year with more nuances and more adjustments and more plays, because it was basic early, just teams didn't recognize, and then we just hit a brick wall. People think it was because of the injuries. No, the scheme and what we were doing hit a brick wall.
Yeah. So I hope that in year two in a newer system and adjusting to where Tua wins, which is like he's not a 60-yard bombs guy, but he might be a top 3 or 4 like in between the 15 and 25 range in the league legitimately. Like in terms of the advanced analytics, they would confirm that. Like he just slices and dices that portion of the field up, and it makes sense when you have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. That's where they win. Like that's where they Like that's
if he
where
doesn't
they
have great receivers though, I'm sorry, he falls off.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think most people do, unless you're like one of the greatest of all time. So it's just gonna be which Tua we get. Yeah, which Tua we get, and can they get a difference maker at tight end as well? I think that would really help to add one more weapon there. But I would still lean Bills to win the division.
Oh my God!
And you're also like,
Travis,
so
you had credibility all this time.
I gotta press Travis though.
All this time he had credibility, and he ends it off like that. Travis, oh my God, Travis, they ain't even got money. They out here feeding their players lemons coming into training camp. Did you see that? We sliced up lemons and handed them out to players on their way in the building yesterday. Just pathetic.
So Travis, I do have a question for you.
Man, brother.
So you said obviously you have Bills 1, Dolphins 2, Jets 3, Patriots 4 is what you just said. So when it comes to the Jets, you just mentioned Aaron Rodgers, and you don't know what version you're getting of Aaron Rodgers. What's your assessment of their roster around the quarterback? Because do you think that they're in a position where they should be aggressive for a win now quarterback? Because previous years, I would say do not go after a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. We are not good around him, but we're coming off a top 5 defensive season, 2 rookie of the years. I mean, you're a college guy. You saw what Sauce did and Garrett Wilson did, both winning rookie of the years. So what's your thoughts of the Jets roster around him? And do you think that even if Rodgers isn't MVP level, the Jets were a playoff team last year if we had an average quarterback? Like we don't need an MVP level Aaron Rodgers to be successful with how good our defense was, and Breece Hall as well if he was healthy.
Yeah, now's the time, just because like you have a bunch of your best players on these rookie deals for a few years. Let's just get two more years out of Rodgers if you can, and just swing for the fences. Like that's the play. You can't just hope that Zach Wilson magically figures that out, or and anything else happens, or trade for Ryan Tannehill per TD's suggestion. It's like you just swing for the fences and go for Rodgers. It's a win now. Like with Wilson and Sauce, man. Like that was lights out kind of draft. Like you completely in 1 year completely change your defense and completely change your offense with two players, really. I guess like that's just wild. So
and Breece, and it's so sad that Breece got hurt.
I know. So it's just incredible drafting on their part. So I like it. And so I say third, but it's not a huge gap there. There is, in my opinion, a more significant gap to the Patriots, which the Patriots hater that I am. I enjoy that because Brady ruined 2 decades of my favorite sport, but
yes,
I'm not bitter or anything like that. So yeah.
And so you're talking to 3 friends like from the AFC East, man.
Yeah,
trust me, we know.
Ruined your lives for forever, man.
yeah, ruined our lives twice a year.
Yeah,
because the Jets and Buffalo can never get wins on them.
We freaking beat them in the playoffs, TD. We beat them in the playoffs. I don't care about your regular season nonsense. We beat that man in Foxborough in the playoffs. You can't say none of that.
Was that with Mark Sanchez?
That was with Mark Sanchez. That was with Bart Scott at the end. Can't wait.
Oh my God.
Making a
Legendary.
especially since so making a transition, especially since my guy Travis is on the Bills train for this year, 2023, winning the division. I believe it's the 4th year in a row. Amazing.
They're not winning the division this year, Dan.
So this is my question to you as well, because I feel like most Bills fans, like our biggest concern is, or one of our biggest concerns is like not truly a bell cow back, like a running back, right? And I mean, I feel like the majority of our run game for the past couple of years has been Josh Allen. Your confidence doesn't change at all. Say that we go into the season with Damian Harris and James Cook and then Nyheim Hines. Like you're still on the Bills train. Like you still think that like we can go like 85% of the time pass first and still be able to compete with a Fangio-led defense, with a Jets defense who has proven to have or be very competitive against us. What's your thought process there?
So I was a little low on James Cook just because I like through a fantasy football type lens coming in because like I love that kind of analysis. But in terms of being a real efficient contributor, he really showed promise last year. I believe it was 5 yards per carry or something, maybe even more than that down the stretch.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
So he was at least efficient. I don't think he's going to be a bell cow type back. And Harris can get the job done, being that grinder that they need to just get some carries from and poke it in the end zone. But not being a difference maker necessarily, adding extra yards over expectation. I'm one of those guys that models the rushing yards over expectation. He's not that guy. But I would be okay with that stable, but I would have questions. I would really want them to add like a Zach Charbonnet or even like Jahmyr Gibbs is like something you kind of already have with James Cook, or like take Bigsby, later in round 3 or something like that, or somebody like that I would be more excited about. I'd feel better, but they don't necessarily have to.
Something special for the people who care about most. It's only 7 a.m., but they were so happy to see us and eat a home-cooked meal.
It's a shame, Dan.
If you want a lemon.
Y'all so broke from Josh Allen's
satire.
contract, y'all giving players lemons.
This is clearly satire.
It's a lemon. Lemons?
Oh.
Good for you.
Hey.
Embarrassing.
Want to drink one from the road?
Yeah.
Why not? Thank you. Oh, they got the lemon.
You want a lemon?
Not really. Oh, take one.
Not really. I'm good.
Why not?
I'll leave a bigger smile because you get the free lemon.
All these players that'll never have a chance to win the Super Bowl. It's just sad.
The Lemon-lytics? Is that what it is? The lemon?
It's the Lemon-lytics, man. Yeah. No. I mean, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I definitely have a lot of expectations for James Cook. I was very disappointed that we drafted him for his ability. We drafted him for his ability to be a pass-catching back, and I feel like we rarely utilize him in one of his largest strengths. So I feel like most Bills fans are literally praying that Dorsey can like be a bit more balanced on the side and like really make sure that it's as creative as possible going into 2023. There's no way.
Thank you for the Patriots fans upset with you, Travis. He just wants to be your friend since you're picking on the Patriots.
Can't do it. Sorry.
Hey, man, the Patriots didn't only just affect the AFC East, but it affected even Travis, who's a
my entire
Titans
childhood
fan.
Just ruined.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's
terrible.
Man.
It's bigger than life. That's what it comes down to, and we're fortunate to be able to be on the other side of that Brady era. So, folks, before we end off the show, we just opened it up to the Patreon members if you want to join in and ask Travis any questions you may have about the NFL draft. So any Patreon members that is a member, you'll get access to the link to join the show and ask a question for 60 seconds to see what you got for the NFL draft. The NFL draft is live next week, Thursday night, the first round. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys can do us all a favor, if you're not already, hit that thumbs up button. We greatly appreciate that. Let's get to 100 likes. We got 92 likes right now. If you're enjoying the show and you're liking Travis's input and you're enjoying the entertainment that we bring for you guys, do us all a solid favor. Smash that thumbs up button. We got a lot of things coming this offseason. A lot of new segments, a lot of fun things. So the way you can support the channel is by simply hitting that thumbs up button. So we greatly appreciate you all tuning in as always. All right, so let's transition into the Patreon members as we enter the back end of the show. First man, we haven't seen this man in a while.
There he is. What up?
What up, man?
What up, Mel?
What's up, dude?
Chilling, man.
How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm doing my thing. Work, kids, pets, whatever.
Great.
I love it.
How you
What you got
how
for
you
us
guys
today,
doing?
man?
The draft. So I've been doing mock drafts like nobody's business. I'm over at Built in Buffalo, Dan, and so linebacker has been a real big thing. But it seems like they may be content on what they got as of now, and maybe willing to wait till the second round to go linebacker. Hopefully, like a Jack Campbell falls there, or or somebody like that. But I see him going in the top 50, not necessarily the first round, but it's gonna be hard to get a linebacker. So I think defensive tackle might be a spot that the Bills really focus on, because we don't have any defensive tackles signed after this year. Yeah, all of our guys. Yeah, well, no, we have 4 guys, right? But none of them are signed after this year.
Yeah.
Like we have Jordan Phillips, 1-year contract, done after this year. Ed Oliver, done after this year. Daquan Jones, done after this year. Tim Settle, done after this year. We don't have a defensive tackle after this year. So defensive tackle could be a spot where they look to maybe move back from 27 to like 30 to 30 to 40, and go after like a Mozzie Smith from was it Michigan? I think it is.
Yep, out of Michigan.
So he's a guy that they could look at as a one tech, because one tech is one spot that the Bills have failed to really solidify since we had Starlo Tulele, who for a couple years was good and then just trash. But otherwise, Ed Oliver, a 3 technique. There are tons of defensive tackles in this draft. Moro Ojomo from Texas is a guy I like later on in like the 5th round. You can get him. I think the Bills might double dip in this draft at defensive tackle, and that's the spot I'm looking at. Also, defensive tackle. We don't have anybody signed up for this year. So do you want to go and re-sign somebody, pay him a lot of money, or do you want to get rookies who you can have under controlled contracts for a while, especially with the cap situation we're in right now?
Is we talking about early rounds, or are we talking about later rounds?
I'm thinking one in round 2, or round 2, and then one later. So like Mozzie Smith would be a 1st or 2nd round pick, and then Moro Ojomo would be like a 4th or 5th round pick. So you'd be looking at a 1 tech, and then a 3 tech later, and build them up. Also, offensive tackle, if they're looking to replace Spencer Brown, which I don't think they are as of right now, but potentially could be somebody to look at. I look at like a Bergeron from Syracuse is a guy that I like. But they could also have somebody drop them in the 1st round that they could pick up at tackle, because they signed so many guards this offseason. So guard might not be something they're looking at. They gave Ryan Bates 4 years at $16 million. Decent contract, decent player. You didn't pick up Connor McGovern. They may look to draft a center like a Whippler from Wisconsin. There's a lot of guys in this draft that are interesting. The Bills really can set themselves up to do whatever they really want in this draft, depending on who falls to them. And I think that's the beauty of Brandon Beane, is that he'll let the draft come to him. He'll go get guys that are, cost controlled to play this year. And if he has to draft new guys next year, that's fine. But I think this year he's probably going to look at the defensive tackle spot for one, possibly defensive end, because we have Vaughn, Greg, Basham. Epenesa's gone after this year. Shaq Lawson's gone after this year as if they're contracts. So there's different scenarios that we're looking at here, and Brandon Beane likes to make sure he's got guys under contracts that are under control. So the Bills are really interesting in the draft.
So, Paul, do you have a question for Travis?
I do. Travis, if you're the Bills, right, and say I said earlier in the chat, if Bijan falls to you, you freaking take him, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
but
please.
Dude,
I'm not happening, Dan. Same thing with Breece Hall.
Okay.
Don't remind me of that.
It's not the same thing, because Bijan might be going at 10 to the Eagles, right? The Eagles might take him, and they'd be dumb not to, because they just lost Sanders, right? So they need a running back to support Jalen Hurts, and they draft twice before us. So that's tough. If a Bijan doesn't fall to the Bills, right, and say a left tackle like the guy from Tennessee is there, or not a left tackle, but an offensive tackle is there, guy from Tennessee, or if Osiris Torrance is there, do you think that they would go offensive line or a skill position?
I think they would go offensive line. Just there's not as many of them that I think would be available in that spot. And so if they miss like their guy, they might go with the wide receiver. But I would say if Osiris Torrance is there, if Anton Harrison is there and they like him, great. But those are the two that I could see them taking. But there could be a number of players that are like their guy in that range that are wide receiver, whether that be Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers, or Jordan Addison, and Jalen Hyatt, or Josh Downs. Like any of those five, I could see being their guy for a role that they need to fit. Hyatt maybe not so much because he'd probably do a lot of the same thing with Gabe Davis, but any of the other four might be in play if they just want to wiggle around and maybe even trade down a bit too.
I think trade down's the option. I like Cedric
Downs.
Tillman in round 3 personally. Cedric Tillman from Tennessee, I like in round 3.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you tuning in. It's good to see you again. It's been a minute, man. Good luck to your Buffalo Bills.
Thank you. And the Jets are, they're the ones that worry me. So
love to hear that. We'll see you this season, man. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Let's go Bills. Love that guy.
Love that guy too, man. It's great to have him back.
Travis, I have one last question for you, if you don't mind. Any draft night first round surprises you can see as far as trades in the NFL?
That's a great
player being on the move for somebody to get the capital.
Just to look out for, the Aaron Rodgers trade could happen on draft night in day 2.
Oh.
Just want to throw that out there. No, what do you mean? Oh my God, it's like a real thing.
It's like the seventh potential scenario of when it's going to happen. Holy shit!
What's your thought, Travis?
Yeah, that could be in play. There's even some buzz with Trey Lance. I'm not really sure how real that is. That's kind of been floated out there here recently. Apparently, they weren't the ones that were shopping him, and Purdy might miss a lot of time. And so, why would you trade away your other option that you would go with this year? But they could trade away Trey Lance and try to get into this quarterback class, perhaps. It wouldn't be a 1-for-1, but there's some kind of mega deal to make it happen to pivot. If they don't believe that Purdy is the guy, that's something in play because there are interested teams to try to actually add Trey Lance because everyone assumes that they can get the perfect season that he put together, against FCS competition, like 3 years ago at this point. But that would be one I'm actually looking at, but. Man, it's really funny because there's like 28 players that feel super chalky for the first round. So I'm not sure that there's going to be a big surprise of like massive fallers among like the top, especially like 19, 20 players, but really 28-ish players. But if anything happens that would surprise, the mock drafters, it would be that both Richardson and Levis fall like outside the top 10. Like that is definitely in the cards because Richardson has one of the worst passing profiles of all time of any first-round quarterback ever, if not the worst. And Levis is not a first-round quarterback anyway. So both of those could drop.
What about a Lamar Jackson move, though?
That's possible, but I think the Ravens they're like, nah, bro. Like, you're staying. Like, or pulling Le'Veon Bell. I don't care. Like you're our guy.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You're a Baltimore Raven.
Right. And so it's just that whole situation's weird. I wish that they would have treated him right and gotten him paid earlier. And honestly, if they just paid him first, they probably would have had a cheaper deal than the Jalen Hurts one that just happened. So it's just like now they just kind of screwed themselves over and ticked off their quarterback. So good luck.
Hey, anything could happen. Remember last year, AJ Brown got traded on draft night.
Don't remind me. Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
Man,
That's tough for the Titans. They should have paid him.
Lamar is a bum. Sorry.
All right, well, that's going to conclude this show of the draft special. Next week will be the real draft special because we'll be going live right before the draft. We might be going live Tuesday instead of Wednesday. We'll keep you guys in the loop, though, because, as you guys know, my Knicks are in the damn playoffs, and they might be playing Wednesday night, so I'll be busy talking about that. Let's go freaking Knicks, baby. Come on. New York, we here.
go.
But
Let's go.
that's a discussion for another day. Travis, it was a pleasure to have you on, man. To have a college expert like yourself to give us your insight of where you see the AFC East going and the NFL draft. We appreciate you hopping on, my friend. Anything you'd like to say before we finish off the show?
No, I just appreciate you having me on. It's just been a blast. Like I said, I mean, it's just with Mojo, they've been having me jump on with a bunch of the partners that we've been working with, and I appreciate it because just we need you guys to really get the word out about what we're doing with the sports stock market. And so it's just been fantastic to be in partnership with you ever since we launched last fall. So just really looking forward to it. But if you have any questions, any listeners at all, just find me on Twitter at @FF_TravisM. I'm always talking college football, always talking NFL, everything. Like that's what I do full time now. So come at me.
Nice.
So I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Travis.
Man, we appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you. We're excited to keep up with this partnership with Mojo starting again next season. So that's done for the show, guys. Again, check out Travis's Twitter at @FF_TravisM. We'll see you guys next week. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. And that's it.
Let's go, Bills.
Peace out, everybody.
Peace. Josh Allen's trash. The Jets are garbage.
Let's go, Jets.
Oh,
Everyone's
man.
scared of Aaron
It's
Rodgers
good.
coming.
All that good